So I started a series for indie book reviews maybe like a month or two ago, and my first book was Rust Colored Rain by Otto Schaefer, and I really loved it. I had so many good things to say about it because it was just beautifully written and it was a beautiful book. But anyways, today we are going to be talking about another indie novel. It's called Thick as Blood by Wynter Cannatelli. And this is another author that I actually found on YouTube. She does have a YouTube channel. She hasn't uploaded in a while. Honestly, I don't really know what happened to her. I hope she's okay. But yeah, this is an indie novel by Wynter Cannatelli, and it's called Thick as Blood. And I am going to go into it. Spoiler alert. Some spoilers. Not too many, but some. So I'm going to read the back for you guys, but originally I would give this a 3.54 stars out of 5. But then when I got to the end, I definitely think I would give this a 5 stars, 100%. In my own opinion, though. That's just me. Flowers are a symbol of love, Char. They're not meant to last forever. Charlotte Reed is a skinwalker, and an impressive one at that. By consuming the souls of animals, she can transform into near replicas of them at will, able to live and breathe through their skins. But she's also a high school senior, desperate to finish her last year while making sure her Xanax-addicted best friend doesn't wind up in a ditch, and failing to keep her too perceptive mom at bay when the topic of leaving their small town rears its inevitable head. So she doesn't account for Damien, the clan leader's son, who to turn up after disappearing for 6 months, and definitely doesn't account for his inexplicable interest in her, especially because he was the last person to see her father alive, and to be the one to hold the truth of his death. Battling with resurfacing memories of her father, bullies, and the unflinching reality of first love, Charlotte has to decide what's important and that means finding what she's truly made of. At first, like I said, I read the back, I was very enticed by the skinwalker aspect and the fact that they're not just your regular shapeshifters. So in this book, like I said, spoilers, the skinwalkers, they either find or whatever the animal skins, the pelts, or bodies, etc. And they can embody, once they have the pelt or the skin or that dead animal, they can, if it's accepted, they can transform into that animal. Not like that animal, overall, but specifically that animal with her soul, her memories, her experiences or their experiences, etc., whatever that animal may be. So that aspect of the story really enticed me, but I will be honest, it's not the biggest part of the story. It is, but it isn't. And I love the way that Wynter writes, because me personally, I love stories that are about real people and about real life things and real emotions, even within fantasy novels, even within sci-fi, etc. I love stories that tell stories about people. So Charlotte is a high school senior, or she's trying to get through her senior year. She has a best friend named Freddie, who is kind of like that, lovable older brother type. But then Damien comes back after disappearing for 6 months. And again, Damien is the one who holds the secret of how her father passed away. And he was the last one to see her father alive. So now, this boy is expressing interest in her, and she's going through all these emotions of newfound love, teen romance such. But it's so hard not to spoil it because it blew my fucking mind. It's one of those things where it's maybe you'll see it coming, maybe you won't. I definitely didn't, but as I was reading it, she adds in a few elements, maybe 3/4 into the book. And you're oh, okay, that's interesting, whatever. And then you get to the end, and I was that has to do with that, and that. I was literally I'm not even joking, I was on the train, and I had to have a moment. The moment I finished this book, I had to close it and be and keep in mind, there's a stranger sitting on my left-hand side, and I'm against the window, and I'm like, don't be weird. Don't be weird. I was holy shit. Again, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but it really threw me for a wild ride, for me at least. But anyways, so Charlotte is experiencing these feelings of newfound love. She's also feeling very, she doesn't want to directly ask Damien what happened, but at the same time, she's still wondering, why what happened to her father. Her mom doesn't really like to talk about it. They live in a clan called Rune Roads. And this clan of people, they're all skinwalkers. They all can do what she does. The only thing is that her family is not from there. They're not a part of the clan. They joined the clan later on when she was maybe in 7th or 8th grade. And, you know, because of that, she has that, you know, outsider, exterior, and even interior a little bit. Her personality is not the same as the others in her village. They're very secluded. They're very in the middle of the woods, you know. They don't talk to outsiders. They don't like hospitals, for example, because hospitals could mean that they could potentially get discovered because their bodies can handle more, you know, than the average person. But anyways, so she's going through all these emotions. She's going through, you know, teen angst, if that makes any sense. But it's just so much deeper than that. And as I was reading this book, like, it really brought me back to like when I was her age. And it really brought me back to like those feelings. And like, I will say Wynter Cannatelli did a great job writing this book, in my opinion, because it really felt like I was Charlotte. It really felt like I was going through what she was, not even that I was going through what she was going through, but it really felt like I could empathize with what she was going through because of the way that it was written. And I will say that Wynter Cannatelli did an absolutely phenomenal job with that. Okay, so Charlotte, she's going through these emotions. Damien shows back up. They start this, you know, newfound love, relationship, etc. Like I said, spoiler alerts. I'm not going to go into too much about their relationship. Spoilers. So she eventually does find out what happened to her father. Damien does tell her, and she has a lot of conflicting emotions in regards to how he died, you know, why didn't he tell her sooner? Why didn't he really tell anybody? Should she tell her mom? You know, and keep in mind, she's in high school. She's like 17, 18 years old. So this is a lot for her to be processing. This is a lot for, yeah, this is just a lot for any teen, in my opinion. And yeah, it kind of leads into the end where she kind of finds out the truth about Damien and the truth about everything that's kind of been happening behind the scenes. It's not like cult level shit, but like, okay, so like I said, I'm not gonna spoil the ending, but let's just say Damien's not telling the whole truth, as sometimes men do. But anyways, and women, don't get me wrong, but he's not telling her the whole truth. There's definitely something that is missing. There's definitely something that he's not telling her, and she feels this, right? So she doesn't feel it per se. She knows something's off. Because like I said, spoilers, there's a singular part where Damien's ex warns her, and she basically tells her that Damien will ask you to jump. But it really depends on how high he asks you to jump. Because eventually he's going to start asking you to jump higher and higher and higher and higher until it takes away from you. And I wouldn't necessarily say Damien is like a narcissist, because honestly, Damien's like almost to her age too. He's a little bit older, I believe. And I can't say with certainty, in my own opinion, that he is 100% like a narcissistic character. But he definitely is. He has traits of narcissism. He has traits of like, you know, I know what's best. I want what's best for you. I know what you want. I get to say, you know, about your experiences and blah, blah, blah. Like, he's very kind of like that later on. In the beginning, obviously, he, you know, slow burn romance. He's this perfect, like, older boy that likes her. But it does take a turn, and she eventually learns the truth. And that's all I will say. But anyways, I would definitely 100% rate this book 5 stars, in my own opinion. If you like slow burn, if you like teen drama, but also real world drama, if you like kind of the sci-fi-y, fantasy-y aspect of them being skinwalkers. Like I said, the story is about them as skinwalkers, but it doesn't like heavily, mainly focus on it. It does. But a majority of the issues that she's dealing with are between the characters themselves. They're between the people. They're very human emotions, if that makes any sense. But anyways, I would rate this book 5 stars, and I definitely highly recommend it to anyone who's looking to pick up a good indie read. And I highly encourage you guys to support indie authors. Trust me, like, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of indie authors out there that don't really put too much effort into their books, and that's okay. Like, some people just publish for themselves, but there are definitely a lot of people out there as well that are indie that do go through editors. They do go through a tremendous amounts of time and effort to either learn the skills, hire someone else, whatever it may be, but they put a lot of work into their novels. And just because they're indie, it doesn't mean that they are any less than. So I would highly encourage you to pick up an indie read, and this is definitely one of them. So anyways, I hope you guys had a great day. Sorry, I don't know. I kind of wanted to keep this like not edited so much. I kind of wanted to have it be a little bit more organic. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And if you want more indie reads or indie book reviews, comment your suggestions for indie reads below.